Now I'm going to share with you the second most powerful speaking tool I've learned over the last 10 years. Now, in my last video, many of you saw it, I talked about analogies, and now I want to share with you what is called bounce. Bounce is an art form, if you ask me, about being able to engage your audience and bring them in to your story that you're telling. And it's very simple to do. It simply starts with a phrase like imagine if, or have you ever. So for example, I work with a lot of value-added reseller and system integrators, and I could say to you, have you ever had one of those days where your spouse is calling and the kids are calling and you're feeling so stressed out, but you have this huge project that you just have to get done and you're leaving for vacation tomorrow? Have you ever felt that stress? Now, many of you right now are thinking about that time that may have happened last week, may have happened last year, may have happened a couple of years ago, but you remember very vividly that feeling and that just terrible angst that you have about how you're going to get it all done. So what I've done is I've started to tell a story. I said, imagine if, or have you ever, or could you remember a time? And then I cue you in to start thinking about something. And every person in that audience, every person that you're talking to is going to start thinking about their personal life. So now the communication that you have with them is really emotional and personal to them. Now, I recommend that you do some form of bounce about every 3 minutes in your presentation. Now, it's really hard to just suddenly incorporate it if you're a salesperson or someone that does a lot of presentations. So here's how I learned to do bounce, is I made it a muscle. I just made it a habit by practicing it all the time. So I would be out with friends in a bar and I'd say, have you ever had a situation where, and then I'd try it and I'd see how they respond to me. Every time they'd start talking about a situation that they had like that. So you can practice bounce with everyone in your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, but then make sure you incorporate bounce at least every 3 minutes when you're presenting. What you're going to find is that your audience is going to love you. Watch the masters like Tony Robbins or Brendon Burchard. They all bounce. How can Tony Robbins sit there with an audience of 5,000 people and you ask people and they all think Tony's talking to them? There's a reason why they call him Tony, not Mr. Robbins, not Tony Robbins. Like everyone just is like, oh, my buddy Tony, right? Because he has this connection with them. And you can have that too. So my challenge to you today is go out, start practicing bounce. Remember, just imagine if, or have you had a time, or can you remember? Now, one more thing, when you do this, try and keep it generic. So if you're doing a presentation and you want someone to think about their childhood, and maybe when they got in trouble, right? Has anyone had one of those parents where you always went to them when you got in trouble? Now, everyone's thinking about which parent they went to because, you know, not all of us had two parents in our household. So make sure you kind of make it generic and go bounce today. That's it from Tampa, Florida. I'm Heather Cole. We'll see you next time.